All right, I call this meeting to order for July 1st, 2025. The meeting of the Hopkinton Select Board is being held both in person and remotely using the video conference platform Zoom. All members participating in the meeting are present in the meeting room. The public has the option of attending in person here at Town Hall or via Zoom using the link posted in this meeting's agenda. This meeting is being recorded. And we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we're going to move to public forum. So each person will have 2 minutes to come up and speak at public forum, and please start by stating your name and address.
Ed Harrow, 8 Spring Lane, speaking first as chair of the Open Space Preservation Commission. I wish to publicly thank Joe Regan for bringing a big pile of wood chips to the trailhead for the Whitehall Conservation Area, and Rob Pratt for spreading the wood chips around the maple tree. The wood chips' job is to help protect the roots of the maple tree so that the dirt doesn't become compressed, which will impact the roots' ability to do what roots are supposed to do. Secondly, speaking for myself, I wish to thank the DPW and Mike Manser for getting the storm drain grate at the bridge construction project on Fruit Street replaced after DOT seemingly couldn't do it for, I'm not sure how many months ago it was that I noted it. What it was a parallel bar storm drain grate which traps bicycle wheels. So it has now been replaced with a proper cross-type grate, and I thank them very much.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'm Mary Arnott. I live at 51 Teresa Road here in this great town. I have a brief letter I'd like to read into record and a brief statement to make. And before I start, I want to say that this is no reflection on the services of the Department of Public Works. I hold them in high regard, but it is regarding the billing system. So I'll read that to you. Dear Select Board members, I am formally requesting that the Select Board of Hopkinton conduct a review of the town's Department of Public Works billing practices to ensure that only water and sewer usage on or after July 1st, 2025, billed to each residential account is billed at the approved rate effective for the fiscal year 2026. And furthermore, that the water and sewer usage prior to July 1st, 2025 is billed at the approved rate for fiscal year 2025. As part of said review, I further request that the Select Board direct the Department of Public Works for the town of Hopkinton to implement a billing system to prorate water and sewer usage bills based on the approved rate at the date of the water and sewer usage. Finally, I request a written response to my request, and also that the findings of said review be published on the Hopkinton Town website to inform the town residents of the outcome and the Select Board's determinations for the town's water and sewer usage and billing system. Sincerely, Mary Arnott. And I have a copy of the letter for each of you, and one for Elaine. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
And a brief statement is the reason I'm bringing this to your attention is that I believe that the water and sewer rates that go into effect July 1st will be billed at the higher rate for any residential bills that are received after July 1st, even if the water usage was prior to the start of the fiscal year. So as an example, I get my bill in August, and my previous bill was February of 2025. In my August bill, I believe it will be billed from February through August at the higher rate that isn't approved until July 1 for the fiscal year 2026. So for decades, I think I may have been paying at higher rates than was approved at the time of my usage. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Anyone else in the room for public forum? Anyone on Zoom?
There's one person, but no hands raised.
Okay. All right, if that's it, then I think we're going to move to the consent agenda. So the Select Board will consider the following consent agenda: minutes for the Select Board meeting on June 3rd, 2025, and to accept gifts, a donation of $500 from the Irvine Foundation and $100 from Jerome Rossi to the Police Department to be used where needed, and $500 from Glenn and Cynthia Dawson to be used for the Police Department Sweet Scoops program. Anyone want to pull anything out or make a motion?
Move it as submitted.
Got a motion and a second. Any comments from anyone? Just like to say thank you to all those who donated. It's greatly appreciated. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That is unanimous. Next, we're going to move to the Director of Land Use Confirmation. Elaine, would you like to introduce this one and have Mr. Gelsich join us?
Sure. I'm pleased to present John Gelsich for confirmation as Director of Land Use Planning and Permitting for the town of Hopkinton. John has served the town with dedication and distinction since 2019, first as Principal Planner and more recently as Interim Director. In these roles, he has led complex zoning and permitting processes, facilitated inclusive public engagement, and managed both long-range planning and day-to-day departmental operations with professionalism and skill. He brings more than 15 years of experience in the planning field, including prior work in both the public and private sectors. John is certified by the American Institute of Certified Planners, holds a master's degree in urban and regional planning from Virginia Tech, and is a graduate of the MMA Suffolk Certificate in Local Government Leadership and Management program. John is well regarded by his team and colleagues for his collaborative approach, technical expertise, and thoughtful leadership. He has demonstrated a deep commitment to the values and goals of our community, and I'm confident that his appointment will continue to advance Hopkinton's priorities in land use planning and permitting. So pleased to present John for your confirmation.
Awesome. John, welcome. As Elaine said, you've been a great asset to this town. So first, do you have anything you'd like to share with the board or the town?
No, I'm just really excited to get started in this role and get a principal planner on board and get some more planning work done in town.
Awesome. Any comments or thoughts from the board? Amy?
Yeah, I was able to work with John when I was on the planning board and the design review board, so I really appreciated his work, and I'm glad he's able to move up to the next position.
Awesome. Shadul?
Yeah, similar. I worked with John while I was in the planning board. During that time, I found him very professional and expert and willing to really help out the residents as well as our planning activities. And I see you've been doing this as an interim, so thank you for stepping up and looking forward to your journey.
Brian?
I think it's a great opportunity for the town and for John, so I'm really excited about this promotion. I do have one question. Have you ever attended a Virginia Tech football game?
A Virginia Tech football? Yeah,
So you know Enter Sandman?
absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
Played at my wedding.
It's the coolest thing on the planet.
Well, my wife and I entered our wedding too.
Great, awesome.
That's good. No, John, I echo what the rest of the board has stated. Grateful on behalf of the town. We're lucky, and congratulations to you. So I will look for a motion from the board.
I move the motion to appoint John as the Director of Planning,
Is that,
Director of Land Use, Planning, and Permitting. Or I move to confirm the town manager's appointment of John Gelsich as Director of Land Use, Planning, and Permitting.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? It's unanimous. Congratulations, John.
Thank you.
Good luck, John, thank you.
All right. Next, we're going to look at the approval of the disposition of 28 Knoll Road. Elaine, would you like to introduce this one, please?
I'd like to have Lance talk about this one. Lance has
Perfect.
been a point person on this project.
Lance.
As some of you may recall, back in February, we had Jack Nealon come before the board to talk about this property. It's a lot the town acquired, more than 10 years ago. It was approved for disposition at town meeting around 2013, I believe. It was a tax-taking parcel. It's one that the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board identified as a potential for development as a single-family affordable unit. So that was what was presented to the board back in February. And now at this point, we have prepared an RFP working with legal counsel, and we'd like to, request the board's approval of that RFP and permission to advertise the disposition.
Perfect. Thank you, Lance. Any questions or thoughts from the board? Brian, you want to start with this one?
Yeah, that'd be great. So disposition of 28 Knoll Road, meaning remove it from the single-family affordable or add it to the single-family affordable?
Meaning to, sell off the parcel essentially, but, not to sell it off in the traditional way. This will be, the way the RFP is written, this will be sold to a nonprofit for development as a single-family home, affordable.
Deeded as an affordable home.
Correct.
Okay, so in parallel to that, and not specific to 28 Knoll Road, and Elaine, we've seen this a couple of times from Mr. McNamara and others in the neighborhood. I'm trying to remember the street address.
Baker Lane area.
I'm sorry?
Baker Lane area.
Yeah, we have a couple of houses deeded affordable in a neighborhood, single-family homes, it's my understanding, total disrepair. And I think they're tied up with some mortgage issues and foreclosures, things along those lines. How can we prevent this one from kind of landing in that same place someday, perhaps? I mean, I hope it never does, but we have two that we can't really do a whole lot with right now, as I understand it. And I'd hate to see this become a third someday.
Yeah, it can happen that an owner of an affordable unit can go into foreclosure just like anyone else. In the case of Baker and Oliver, there was a condition, I think, in many of the deed writers that the town and the state had to approve mortgages, and sometimes some of those did not go through that process. But I think the state has learned a lot, and we have learned a lot over the years to really follow those mortgages as closely as we can.
Is there anything we can do now on those other two properties as we consider this one? Is there any action we can take as a town? Can we buy those back or something? I don't know.
Yeah, we just have to wait for the foreclosure process to complete itself. And so the town and the state have signed settlement agreements with both entities, although one of them has been transferred to another mortgage company, so that it remains affordable as it ends up in that process, hopefully. So our goal is that it remains an affordable unit, but we can't make them go through the process any faster than they do.
While they are vacant, can we go over there and just clean up the land or anything? Can we do some work there just to make it less of an eyesore for all the other neighbors? I mean, it's impacting their property values if they were to try to sell or something.
Yeah, the town can't enter onto the private property to do the maintenance. Neighbors may do that from time to time already. I don't know, but yeah, the town can't send a contractor or DPW there to do the maintenance.
Okay, thanks. I'm all set.
Shidul?
I'm happy to see that we are working towards affordable housing, having new affordable housing through this process. And something I heard, and I was talking to the affordable housing a couple of years ago, it takes time. So I'm happy to see this moving forward. A few questions. One is, I was having the same questions that Mr. Hart was asking. On that line, it's been 10 years on those properties, but the foreclosure is taking so long, or there is something else that's happening and we just have to wait it out? I'm trying to understand a little more along the same line. What can we do to remediate? What can we do to get it back, or basically put it into use for the same reason that we originally allocated it for?
Yeah, it is the foreclosure process. I mean, the mortgage companies are pursuing that with the owners. And
Okay.
it has to follow
It
through.
has to take its own time.
Yes.
And for this particular one, there is one question. I think it's stated that it'll be funded through the Affordable Housing Fund. Is that going to be sufficient, or what are we expecting?
Yeah, so the way that the RFP is written is similar to other projects. We took the RFP from Westboro off a similar project where their Affordable Housing Board funded approximately up to 33% of the construction cost. So that's something that the Affordable Housing Trust Board has voted on and approved and allocated the funding up to a certain dollar amount. So it is, part of that process is to fund the construction of the affordable through 33% of those funds plus the sale price and, the cost of the developer, which will be a nonprofit.
Okay. Thank you. Yep, I have no other questions.
Amy?
No, I don't think I have any questions or comments. I'm happy for this to move forward, and I hope somebody will bid on it and we can get it built.
Elaine, I had one question. When we were talking about the other two properties, you were mentioning the hope was that they maintain affordability. Is that at risk when they go through the foreclosure process?
It is at risk, and so that's why both the state and the town wanted to enter into an agreement with mortgage companies to try to preserve that as affordable if possible.
Yep. So anything else we should be thinking about beyond this one, like to future-proof these scenarios?
Yeah, the deed rider that will be placed on the unit will be something that's provided by the state, and so we'll have to work with them to make sure it contains everything that the town is looking for.
Okay, perfect. Any other comments or thoughts from the board? If not, I'll look for a motion.
I move to declare the property 28 Knoll Road, formerly 0 Knoll Road, parcel L351100, available for disposition as a single-family affordable housing unit, as described in the request for proposals dated July 1, 2025, which may be modified by the town manager and the town council as they deem necessary, and to authorize the town manager to conduct the procurement process as described in MGLC 30B and the town's bylaws.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. And any last comments? All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? That is unanimous and it carries. All right. Next, we are going to move on to, I believe, board and committee appointments. So I think, let me go back through. We had a list of several that, plenty of applicants with open spaces, correct?
They're all uncontested.
All uncontested this time?
Yep.
So,
Sorry, through the chair. None of these are contested, I think, right?
yeah, that's what we were just confirming. So, first, if anyone's here for one of those board appointments, if they'd like to come up and introduce themselves to the town, we'll give that option.
And there is one on Zoom as well.
Okay, we'll come back to the Zoom. Yep.
Hello.
Yep.
Andy Bruce. I'm applying actually for the Trails Committee. I'd applied for the Sustainable Green as well, although I think I will withdraw that. Having thought a little bit more, I think I want to get involved with the committee as a volunteer first and focus a little bit more on the Trails Committee now. And my second time applying, I've gotten a little bit more involved with some of the folks in town working, through the Trails Club. And I'd basically like to get to the next area, which is, the implementation of the plans, planning rather, and then implementation of those plans and linking up some of the trails. And I'd like to start learning the nuts and bolts of that. So adequate time now. We're new in town. I'm sort of transitioning into retirement, so I'd like to find a way to use that time that's valuable to the town and good for me.
Awesome.
Reconsideration.
We appreciate you coming. Does the board have any comments or questions?
No.
Just thank you for stepping forward.
Great.
Yep.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jack Buckley. I'm on the Trails Committee and reapplying. It's been an interesting, 4 months. I think it strikes me how much work the people on the Trails Committee actually do. I would say parenthetically, I live on Oliver Lane next to one of those houses you were talking about.
Perfect.
And actually, the bank does pay someone to cut the lawn.
I'm sorry?
The bank pays someone to cut the lawn.
Oh, okay.
But no maintenance.
Sometimes twice a week.
That's good to know. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Buckley or thoughts?
No.
No, same.
Thanks.
Appreciate you coming and taking the time out of your night.
Thanks a lot.
Anyone else in the room? If not, we'll go to Zoom.
Yeah, so David Freed applied for the Trails Committee. He's on Zoom.
Hi, David. Can you hear us on Zoom?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can, yes. Welcome. If you heard us, this is an uncontested seat, but, you made the time to Zoom in, so we wanted to give you the opportunity to speak.
No, I've been on the Trails Committee, similar to Jack, for the last 4 or 5 months. It has been a lot of work, and it's been a lot of fun seeing how the trails are planned and executed. So I'd love to help contribute to that going forward.
Awesome. Thank you, David. Anyone have any comments or thoughts for David?
All good.
No question. Thank you, David.
Perfect. So I don't think we have anyone else on Zoom. So then I think we'll look for a motion for these appointments.
Mr. Chair, I move to appoint the following individuals to the boards and committees listed to the terms identified. John Coutinho to the Board of Appeals to a term expiring 6/30/2030. Michael DiMascio and Nancy Richards Kavanaugh to the Commission on Disability to terms expiring 6/30/2028. Melissa Recos, James Cirillo, and Ed Harrow to the Conservation Commission to terms expiring 6/30/2028. Jeffrey Goldweber and Stacy Schmid to the Council on Aging as full members to terms expiring on 6/30/2028, and Patrick McGowan to the Council on Aging as an associate member to a term expiring on 6/30/2028. Tab Kadlik to an at-large position on the Marathon Committee to a term expiring 6/30/2028. Joseph Bennett, Police Department. Gary Doherty, Fire Department. Tim Person, School Department. And Mike Mansir, Public Works Department, as department liaisons on the Marathon Committee to terms expiring 6/30/2026. Patricia Sinakol to the Personnel Committee to a term expiring 6/30/2028. David Freed, Jack Buckley, and Andrew Pruse to the Trails Committee to terms expiring on 6/30/2028. Aditya Singh to the Water and Sewer Advisory Board to a term expiring on 6/30/2028. Harini Jayaraman as a full member of the Youth Commission to a term expiring on 6/30/2028, moving from high school representative.
I'll second that, so you don't have to read it again. Perfect. I want to thank everyone that applied for these positions. It takes a lot of time and effort, so it does not go unnoticed. So we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
And I'm going to abstain because I've occasionally helped one of the people on the list with website design. So,
Okay.
yeah, so I'll just abstain.
All right, so we've got 3 for, and 1 abstention, so that carries. Thank you, everyone that came tonight, took the time out of your evening. All right, moving on. I believe next is our MWA permitting update.
One moment. We actually have some more appointments associated for the motions here.
Oh, sorry, I missed. Oh, these are the contested ones?
For Labor Council's next, if you are the script and motions.
Okay.
And we also, just to note, we received a letter yesterday, so we've added a keeper of the lockup appointment.
Okay,
Okay.
gotcha.
I've forgotten to do that in the past.
All right, so we have Labor Council, Keeper of the Lockup, and the Constable, correct?
And then town manager
And
appointment.
the town managers, 15 appointments?
Correct.
Okay. All right, so for the Labor Council, Elaine, do you want to introduce this one? Because we talked about, reviewing council that was on the other side of the department, right? So any thoughts or feedback you'd like to give?
Right, so the town has issued an RFQ for general town council services, and the board has expressed an interest in doing similar for labor council, but we didn't advise doing it at the same time.
Okay.
This appointment is for the fiscal year coming up. And then the board can consider its options at that time.
Okay. From the board, any thoughts or comments? Amy, you want to start?
I don't, I'm comfortable making the appointment tonight.
Okay.
I'm
Sure.
good with it.
I guess I'm not clear with Nick's position. What are we doing there? We're going to,
So we've issued an RFQ for general town council services. That's
right?
it. And then, so I don't advise doing them both at the same time.
So you're advising we don't do both at the same time to have somebody around?
Perhaps the next year we do labor council.
Okay,
Yeah. But they have different functions, right? Yeah.
okay.
If we continue this one, the next opportunity would be next year too.
Yes,
Because this would be a one-year appointment.
1 year.
I believe we continually do these 1 years for both of them.
It's always an annual appointment.
So I agree with her point of not doing both at once, one thing at a time. So,
I'm fine with that.
It's a lot to transition.
yeah.
Possibly transition.
So I will look for a motion for this.
I move to appoint Merrick O'Connell as Labor Counsel to a term expiring 6/30/2026.
Second?
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. It's unanimous and carries. Next, for Keeper of the Lockup, we'll look for a motion to appoint Lieutenant Aaron O'Neill as the Keeper of the Lockup to a term expiring 6/30/26. Elaine, could you again explain what this just is for everyone listening at home?
This is something we haven't done before. It's part of the police department's accreditation. They're required to appoint an annual appointment for a keeper of the lockup. It's an obscure statute, but it's out there, and so they're required to appoint someone.
So, Chair, what does the role mean, actually?
It's largely ceremonial, if you will. There's no specific duty.
A big key to the cell.
The ultimate key.
And the big key on the black ring is really from 1740.
Yeah. So, I mean, my comments, my thoughts are, if this is for accreditation, it's important, something that we need to sign. Anyone else on the board have any comments? Brian?
All set.
Shidul?
I'm good, yeah.
Amy?
All set.
All right, so I'll look for a motion.
I move to appoint Lieutenant Aaron O'Neill as the Keeper of the Lockup to a term expiring 6/30/2026.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That is unanimous and carries. Next, we will look for a motion to appoint John Pollock as the constable to a term expiring 6/30/28. Anyone have any comments or thoughts? Elaine?
This is a reappointment, so this is one of the non-elected constables.
Mr. Chair, I move to appoint John Pollock as constable to a term expiring 6/30/28.
Second?
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That is unanimous and carries. All right, now on to the town manager appointments. We're going to look to move to confirm the town manager's appointment for the following individuals to the positions listed to terms expiring 6/30/26. Elizabeth Jeffries is Inspector of Animals, William Proctor is Animal Control Officer, Ed Harrow is Fence Viewer, Charles DeBritz as Plumbing and Gas Inspector, Peter Zareski as Assistant Plumbing and Gas Inspector, Dan Hunt as Assistant Plumbing and Gas Inspector, Kevin Beret as Wiring Inspector, Kevin Beret also as person to cut wires in case of fire, Jonathan Shepard as Assistant Wiring Inspector, Louis Sakin as Sealer of Weights and Measures, John Palmer as Public Weigher, Jayanne Adams as Public Weigher, Jamie Wright as Public Weigher, Colleen Roy as Public Weigher, and Thomas J. McIntyre as Public Weigher.
Mr. Chair, I need to break out, if we could, please, numbers 7, 8, and 9.
7, 8, and 9. So you making a motion?
I'd like to, so we could act on the others, and then 7, 8, and 9, I'm going to recuse.
Okay. So I think we need a motion for that and then a second, right?
Mr. Chair, I move that we appoint all individuals listed in the agenda for this evening, except for Kevin as the wiring inspector, Kevin Barrett as a person to cut wire, and Jonathan Shepard, I'd like to break those out, and I'll recuse.
Second?
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any comments from the board?
I only need to recuse because those folks can sometimes inspect the work that Select Energy does.
Perfect. All right, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So that's unanimous. For 1 through 6 and 10 through 15, Mr. Herr has recused himself.
So I'd make a motion to approve, confirm the town manager's appointment of the following individuals to the positions listed to terms expiring 6/30/26. Kevin Barret as wiring inspector, Kevin Barret is the person to cut wires in case of fire, and Jonathan Shepard as assistant wiring inspector.
Second?
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All, yep, questions?
I wanted to ask it before, which is, these are all paid positions and are on budget because they are only 1 year. How does that work?
So the paid positions are 1 through 9, 10. And they are, Liz Jeffries and Bill Proctor are paid through the budget process. The others are paid, the offense viewer, sorry, is not a paid position either. The others are paid by inspection, and that's paid by the applicants, revolving fund.
And that's why it goes year over year extension?
Correct. It's either the nature of the position or a statutory requirement.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
And they're not full-time jobs. It's a small amount, right?
Pardon me?
They're not full-time jobs, these
That's
positions,
correct.
right? Yeah,
None of them are full-time.
right.
We still have a motion and a second, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous and carries. Mr. Herr has rejoined us. So next, the Select Board will move to authorize the posting of the Human Resources Generalist position. Open up for comments or motions. Elaine, would you like to start?
I think on the agenda, it's the MWRA permitting.
Oh, is that separate from the appointments?
Right, because there's no motion associated with WRA.
It's an update or discussion.
Okay.
I'm sorry, we're on to number 7?
Yeah, we're moving on. I thought that was part of. I thought that was part of the annual appointments with those motions, so.
Yeah, I guess.
Mr. Herr recuses himself again. So for this, I believe we have the DPW here with us. And the Water Sewer Advisory Board joining us for this as well.
Through the chair. No, this is just a brief update that the DPW director wanted to give in regard to various topics, including MWA permitting, but also a lot of other challenges the department is facing. So because this wasn't part of an ongoing discussion, we thought it might be just at this time sufficient and more efficient just to have Carrie present these items. And the board certainly is part of these discussions, and we talked about the last meeting, so they're aware of a lot of this.
Carrie, welcome.
Thank you. So Carrie Reed, Director of Public Works, here by myself. So for a little bit of update, first, hopefully you all have seen the outreach about the water restrictions. So we have normal water restrictions. The state has downgraded the drought status, but our wells continue to have issues catching up and keeping up with the demand. And this is not uncommon. This has been happening in other communities. Also, the water restrictions, if you go through other towns, so this is not nearly just a Hopkinton issue, but we are experiencing that. When we had that hot spell last week, we reached water demands of 1.7 million gallons per day, which was higher than we could keep up with, which was very significant. So we are re-emphasizing that the current water restrictions include no lawn watering and no non-essential use. It only applies to those who are on the municipal water. So if you have a private well, it does not apply, but we encourage folks to continue with water restrictions because it does help all of us, and just re-emphasize that we appreciate the community's support, and so any outreach that you can do to that effect would be super helpful. So that's the first update I had. In terms of the MWRA Connection Project, we thought it would be helpful to go over some of the key things that have been happening. So on May 30th, the town staff met with the Southborough Select Board Chair and their staff to discuss the current status of the intermunicipal agreement. On June 3rd, the town manager sent a letter to the Office of Water Resources to request a water needs forecast. So that was, an official request. On June 25th, last week, the Water and Sewer Advisory Board met. They had a presentation from PAR, who's the consultant that has been doing the design work. So they received an update. That was a public meeting, so all the information is publicly available for those who want to look over it. I think The Independent did an article on that. That was helpful. And then June 27th, the consultant PAR reached out after a follow-up with all this to the Water Resources Commission and the Massachusetts Environmental Policy Act office to request a joint scoping session so that we can continue to move forward with the permitting on this project. So that's where we currently stand now. The next steps for this project would be to continue the permitting, which would include an updated alternative analysis. So we hear a lot about, what else have we looked at, what else sources we've looked at. So that will include parts of that, answer a lot of the questions that the state agencies may have and that the public may have. And this is all with the state agencies. The permitting with the MWRA itself is the very last step. So we'd have to get all the permits approved through the state agencies before we can move forward. Simultaneously, we can continue moving forward and working on the IMA with Southborough, because that will need to be finalized before we can go into final design, and work out those terms. And we also need to determine and finalize the location of the pump station. Some of the permitting is tied to that location, because that's one of the, So that's where we stand with that. I don't know if I want to open up to questions before I move on to other water topics, or would you guys like?
Yeah, we'll pause here. You covered a lot, so I'll let the rest of the board ask some questions quick. Shadul, you want to start?
Yeah, I heard you mentioned 1.7 million is what we have reached now, and we don't have enough through the wells to support that, right?
Correct. 1.7 million gallons per day was the peak that we saw during that heat wave. So the wells can keep up. The challenge is that we can't refill the storage tanks. So if we had an emergency, we wouldn't have enough water. Really with the peak demand, we have major concerns with being able to respond to emergency response. Would we have enough water if there were a fire? And would we have enough water if one of the wells had so many issues or something went down?
Yeah, and to understand the numbers, so with the restrictions, where did it fall to on usage? 1.7 million was the demand, but with the restrictions, it went down to what?
1.7 million was what the customers were pulling from the water system. So the restrictions on a daily basis, we're trying to operate around 1 million gallons per day. So it almost, when we see these peak fluctuations in the summer, it can almost double our use.
Yeah, so 1 million is our comfort level to some extent.
To some extent. I'm not the water and sewer manager. I'm not the expert on this, but at least for me, I feel more comfortable with that.
Sure.
That's more typical of what we see on a regular basis.
Right, yeah. And then the reason I'm also asking that is when we're looking at the MWRA, what is our current estimation and ask for the volume from the aqueduct?
So that's actually two different questions. So what we've presented so far from PAR, our engineer, for the maximum water need that we think the town would need based on current uses and future projected uses and other strategic goals of the town is 2.7 million gallons per day. And then we'll work with the state agencies. They're going to permit somewhere less than that, we assume. So we still have to have those conversations.
Thank you. That's great insight and information. So that essentially tells me that regardless of the PFAS situation, just for the demand itself, we do need the alternate source. And because our 1.7 million, even the peak, is not cannot be accommodated with the 8 wells we have today, or the 5 in operations. Thank you. Yeah, that's.
And that's an important point. I think we've talked about this a lot, what the number is that we're going to ask for. Is it 2.7? Is it a little bit less than that? For months, that has gone back and forth. My question is, for the sake of permitting, right, and moving this process along, you just mentioned that, 2.7 feels like the peak, and then whatever we apply for the state may come back and tell us a different number. So do we need to really agree on the 2.7 right now, or do we just need to move forward with that as the peak and then wait for feedback from the state agencies? Because there's been a lot of back and forth around this.
I agree with you. There has been a lot of back and forth. My recommendation as DPW director would be to move forward with 2.7. Why would we limit ourselves with our initial ask? But I acknowledge, and they're not here right now, that I do not think that the Water and Sewer Advisory Board is in agreement.
Yep. And, no, and so that's just it. So it's not that everyone's trying to figure out what our true demand is, right, from a volume perspective, and I appreciate that effort. But from what I've heard from, several conversations is from a permitting aspect, and anyone jump in here if I'm off base, but we need to move the permit along and make the ask, whether we ask for 2.7 or 2.5 or a different amount. It still needs to go to the state, and the state helps dictate that based on a variety of factors. And I just want everyone to be aware of that, because I think this board's focus this year, one of the main ones, is moving this water project along. So I think we just need to let everyone know, like, hey, it might not end up being 2.7, but this is why we're starting with it, and this is why we're moving forward with the process. Does anyone like any comments around that or disagree on that idea and moving it forward?
Through the chair. I think what you said is accurate, and I participate in all the Water and Sewer Advisory Board meetings as well. I think it's an important discussion that they're having around what a realistic future need might be, because when we do hear back from the state agencies that dictate these things, we're going to want to know what our minimum future need is, right? And it may not be 2.7. Realistically, maybe it's 2.1. Maybe it's 2. So when we come back at the end of the day and those answers we get from the state, we're going to want to know, if they tell us, a lesser amount, if that's sufficient for our future needs. So that's why we're still working through those numbers. We have John Gelsich helping us with, an evaluation, of our future, what our future need look like. We have the water forecasting we're doing with the state that Carrie just mentioned. So we're kind of, we're all kind of going through that process now to kind of get a better handle on what sort of that minimum future need might be for Hopkinton. 2.7 maybe a little higher than, realistically we might actually need. And that's the debate that's going on with the Water and Sewer Advisory Board.
Perfect.
Yeah, through the chair, just 2 points of comments on that. One is that I agree. We definitely want to, look at what's, as Katie was mentioning, that there will be adjustments, probably pushback or approval process going through the MWRA or the Water Authority. So it wouldn't hurt asking for a little more comfortable level. But that said, I think the whole process we need to think about, and I'm sure there are bright minds behind it, we can evaluate it when we get to that, is how are we forecasting these? I mean, having these all done and in action would probably take 5 to 10 years. And with the growth and all the water level challenges that we are seeing, 1.7 may soon become 2.5, 2.7, who knows? And with the growth also, right, there's quite a few factors. So it needs to be well thought out and calculated and forecasted accordingly. So I'm glad that's going on, so we'll talk about that. The second thought is, what are the options to adjust it within the contract? Do we have a clause that every certain years we get to revisit and readjust our ask through MWRA, or once we say 2.7, that is it for foreseeable or known future?
I can try to answer some of it. So the MWRA will only charge us for the use, and so we only pay for what we use. So whether we use 1 gallon or 1 million gallons, we pay accordingly. The IMA that we're working through has another fee that we would pay to Southborough, because we're wheeling the water through them, so they have a certain requirement to be able to provide us that capacity. And so that fee could be adjusted based on how we negotiate and finish the negotiations with them. So I think that answers most of your question.
It does on the fees side. I was more on the volume side. So say we hear back from the Water Commission and they say you get 2.1 million. And say hypothetically 7 years from now, we are in need of 3 million. So do we go back to them and have an option to adjust that? Or what is the process and the legal kind of obligations on that?
Anytime that you are trying to increase your demand, you do have to go back and get the permits updated, and the permits get revisited on a cycle anyway. So even if we kept the same demand, we would have to renew our permit on a regular basis anyway. So those, yeah, every major change would be another permitting process with the state.
Understand. Thank you.
And to your first comment, before I hand it over to Amy, I believe we're coming back for our next meeting is August 5th, and we're going to have the results of Mr. Gelsich's, review and that analysis of needs. So I think we'll have a better view in a couple of weeks of what our longer-term plan looks like. So just so that everyone's aware of that. Amy?
Yeah, my main questions were, I think you mentioned the PAR, maximum water need. Is that the study that's going on now? Is it the engineer?
No, we're going through the designs now, so that is a study that they already conducted, an water needs analysis. I'm pretty sure it's available on our website, it's publicly available, but.
Okay, I couldn't find it, so I'll check back later.
Maybe I didn't put it up on the website, but we definitely have that.
Okay, and then the water forecast, that's something that the MWRA will help, or the Water Resources Commission will help us with? Or that's part of that report?
It's part of the permitting process, so it's initiated through, the Office of Water Resources, which has staff in connection with the Water Resources Commissions. There's a lot of conglomeration of different staff from across different state agencies.
And is that done or that's in progress, the forecast?
Elaine, I believe you said that they were going to reach back out to us for a meeting?
Correct. So we sent in a letter, and they responded by saying that they'll be in touch for further
Okay,
discussion.
so when you have that, you'll bring that back to us. Okay, great. And then I think that's all I have too. And the growth study we get a lot of questions about this online from various residents when they hear about the drought or they hear about having to reduce their water usage because nobody likes that. But just so I know you have a lot of stuff on your water department website, especially the PFAS and everything, but just the more you can get up on there, the better, I think, because then when somebody asks me a question, I can just say, it's right there, you can look at it. Yeah, and then let's see. And then we have, I know, water and sewer plans for the whole town of which areas can hook up or not, and that we've analyzed our capacity a long time ago. But we review those periodically, correct? Every so often we might look at it again and see what we can do for capacity. Some streets just can't ever have water or sewer because they don't have a connection, right, in the plan.
Correct. We do look at them periodically, and then part of the overlap with the DPW and the planning department is to look at where the needs are for the future, where we anticipate things are, where buildable lots are, things like that to try to prioritize it. And then, yes, we're required to update the plans on a cyclical basis.
Yep. Okay, I think those are all my questions, comments.
Perfect. And so, yep.
Through the chair, I just want to make one more comment. When we had the presentation at the Water and Sewer Advisory Board meeting, and that I want to reemphasize, I thought our consultant made a really good point of saying, whether you take one drop from MWRA, like an emergency overflow, or you get all of your water from MWRA, the cost is not proportional for building. Like, it's going to cost something just to get those pipes into the ground and build a pump station. We'll have to do that anyway, so it's not like there's this huge cost savings if we change from 2.7 to 2.5. Just the fact that we have to build this network to get to that water source, which we'd have to do if we had to put in a new well, and any of that stuff is going to be a significant cost. So it's not a proportional cost savings if we adjust that water demand number.
And once we have it set up, we will just pay on what we use.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's good to know. Yeah, I think that's why we need to meticulously plan and covering all bases and risk factors as well as have enough buffer. So hopefully we'll get to that. Thank you. This is
Awesome.
very helpful.
So, I think the next big thing is, August 5th, we'll be back. We'll go through the plan, and that'll go through the whole analysis of everything that was talked about, taking into this longer-term view of needs. But in the meantime, what do you need from the board? Again, we won't be meeting until August 5th. So from a permitting perspective, what do you need from the board tonight to kind of help move things forward, if any?
I don't think I need anything at this time from the board in the next month or so. I I think the biggest role the board will have is the IMA negotiations with Southborough. So continuing building that relationship and reviewing that and kind of deciding what we feel comfortable with and not will be the most helpful, at least from my perspective, because the authority to sign an IMA rests with the select board, not with the DPW.
Yeah.
So can I ask, when I was chair, I worked on that. Are you working on that now?
We need to discuss that. So Shidul has been the liaison, but I want to go over, I think the last meeting was May 2nd?
May 30th.
May 30th? And so we had the town, like a board member, and then Southborough. When's the next meeting for that? Do we have anything scheduled to move that forward? Okay, so is that, I think we should schedule something, and,
At the meeting, there was a general feeling that we're not far enough along in the permitting process to settle a lot of those issues that are remaining.
okay,
So we didn't feel there was a need to schedule something yet until we're a little further along in the permitting and we have more concrete information about what needs to be in there.
Through the chair, that makes sense, Elaine, but they were open to the negotiations and the terms that we were talking about? What was the general feeling?
So many things are up in the air with the design that we're not ready to
Discuss.
commit to anything.
And was there any kind of threshold at what level of the design should we restart this conversation?
Yeah, it's the permitting process. We need to get further into it and hear from the state agencies as well.
Thank you.
all right. So does that work? You know, this permitting process will move forward, and the select board will be ready to work on the IMA, you know, when that time comes?
Yep.
We'll kind of wait to hear from both of you on that.
They need to go hand in hand, so keep us posted and nudge us if we need to act on it sooner.
Well, we felt it was good to have this conversation here, but as we move forward, you have since identified a DPW liaison, and we have the Water and Sewer Advisory Board, so we can work with them, so we don't have to give like a presentation like this at every meeting.
No, but I think, you know, part of this was it's important for this to be front and center for our board meetings. Like, you know, I think especially when we go once a month, it should be talked about every meeting. Maybe once we get back to a normal flow in the fall, we can go to every other, but like this board is going to prioritize moving this water project forward. So we appreciate you coming again. Yep.
I have one more thing to add before I step.
Yep.
I wanted to point out that we discussed, so it seemed like, I shouldn't even say it. Last year in May, the town, Shadowell and the health department had a PFAS forum. We thought that was really well attended, and we still get a lot of questions about that, a lot of concerns about PFAS. So we are proposing to give one in the fall. As you pointed out, like summer gets kind of crazy. We didn't think we'd get the same public participation. So the health department is leading this effort. DPW is just supporting it, but I thought this was a good opportunity to get that information out there that we do plan to have one in the fall. The library has been a great partner, and they volunteered to host it at their location and to give like follow-on workshops, because there has been a lot of concern by the public about PFAS environmental concerns in water. And so we thought these were great ways to increase public engagement and outreach and give people multiple opportunities to hear about this in case they don't watch these meetings.
I think that's an excellent idea. I think the PFAS thing last year at the senior center was very well run, great information session. So as we get closer to that, we'll work with the town hall and anything we can all do to help message that and get it out there. I think everyone will be supportive of that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think this is a great way to communicate and also spread the word. And if you remember, we had a warrant that we removed, and we had the promise of spreading the words more. So this is a great step forward. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'm good. Rest of the board?
I think I'm done with questions for Carrie, but I'm just trying to clarify which select board member will be negotiating with Southborough. We have not voted on that yet? Or
We have not voted on it.
So we'll decide, can we put that on a future?
Yeah, we'll have to do that for a future item.
All right, awesome. I appreciate the time.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. So I think that brings us to the town manager report. Mr. Herr has rejoined us.
So since I was out last week, Lance wrote the town manager report, and we'll do the town manager report.
Perfect.
do the assistant town manager report. Nothing real critical, no major updates here. One thing I did want to emphasize in the Main Street Corridor project, Dave Del Torio wanted to let everyone know and get the word out that the work is scheduled to start mid-July on the 26.2 Foundation's Bobby Gibb statue project. That'll be located at the corner of Hayden Row and Main Street. So that's, something, he's been working with Tim Kilduff, and he just wanted to take this opportunity to put the word out there that construction will be starting soon. On top, besides that, Comcast is continuing to cut over services, on track to complete work mid-July. AT&T on track to complete work mid-July. Comtract, our town fiber network, scheduled to complete their work during the week of July 7th. Verizon on site the week of June 23rd with a focus on transferring lines to the new poles on the west end of the project to prepare for the west end pole removal. No schedule provided to the town for the completion of their work. So those are the Main Street Corridor project updates I have. Any questions?
To the board, Amy, you want to start?
No, just, I really hope they'll be on track to get their wires down by the end of July, but I'll believe it when I see it. Yeah, but no other questions.
Shadow?
No questions, just waiting for the
Brian?
I'm on the corridor every day, talking to the detail officers and everything else. Everything Lance just said is accurate. We're getting there.
Awesome. Yeah, no questions from me. Thank you for the update.
In addition, the only other item I have is town department position vacancies. We have 3 positions that are, one is currently vacant with the confirmation we just made this evening, the principal planner, and the other 2 are soon to be vacant, the human resources generalist and the health services agent. 2 employees, we're sad to see them go, but they've moving on to new opportunities elsewhere, and we wish them the best. So we're to ask the board, if they're willing, to authorize the advertisement of those 3 positions.
Okay. We'll open it up to questions.
For the motion.
What? So they are asking for a motion today, but first we're going to see if anyone has any questions. You can start, if so.
Are these in the current budget, and are they replacement or new hire?
I don't want to try. Yes, my understanding, and Elaine can probably answer is better, is yes, these are all existing positions in the current budget.
Thank you.
Brian? Amy?
No, I appreciate the explanation. They all seem needed, and I think they should all be posted.
And so obviously both of you are supportive of this and recommend these hiring right away. All right, so then I will look for a motion.
Do we have it here?
I think they have to be 3 separate ones, or can it be one?
It could be one.
Okay. So I move to authorize the posting of the human resources generalist position and the principal planner position and the health services agent position.
Second?
So we have a motion and a second. Any comments from the board? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that is unanimous and carries. Perfect. So that leads us to liaison reports and any additional board items. Amy, would you like to start here?
Yeah, I actually don't think I have anything since last time. It's been kind of quiet.
Okay.
Just some update. We had the Pride Parade. Amy and I joined from the Select Board, and it was wonderful, very well participated, and I think a great community event. So thank you to the organizers for having that. We also had, I also attended the Scout Troop 4 Eagle ceremony, and it was also another wonderful event where we had 2 scouts, Raghav Jivanantham and Jaideep Gon, who joined the ranks of Eagle Scouts, and they did wonderful work. One, Raghav built the stair training equipment for Greyhound Friends, and Jaideep built the 2 bridges in Deneen Conservation Land. So congratulations and thanks to them, and it was a wonderful event.
Excellent. Thank you. Mr. Herr?
Nothing to add, thanks.
Okay. So I think we will move to future board items. I think we've talked, I think the big one for me is, August 5th, we talked about the planning analysis for water, having DPW back, having Mr. Gelsich in here. And I believe we talked about one other thing this evening. We have to pick the liaison for the IMA with Southborough, so, but we'll go down the rest of the board. Brian?
Mr. Chair, I would suggest we strike item number 4 from the list. I think we've covered that, or we're in the process of handling it, so I don't think we need it on there as something we need to do in the future. We're already working on it. And then item 11, what's that? We just did some vacancies now. Oh, that was Mr. Kisner wondering how long it takes to fill some of them.
Yep.
That's fine, whatever, okay. I'm good.
Thank you.
I don't have anything to add at this time.
Okay, Amy?
I think I would just note that the FY26 Select Board goals, that is something we need to schedule to do because we didn't do them last year, the FY25 goals. I think it helps us focus.
Okay. Yeah, I like adding that. Does anyone remember if we have a full board for the August 5th meeting?
What's that?
Do we have a full board for the August 5th meeting? Does anyone know that I think we have one person missing, actually, because I feel like that's something we should all be here to do. Amy?
Yes.
I'll be on vacation, but I can, I'll be on vacation.
Okay.
What was that email?
I can try online, but it'll be in Europe, so timing may not work.
Yeah, I think it's better for that. If we're setting goals for the board, I'd rather us all be in person, so that might have to wait a couple weeks, but if you're fine with that, Amy, because I think it's
I think we
important.
should all be together, yeah. So,
Okay.
I mean, like everybody had said okay to the 5th, but if not, that's fine.
Perhaps a date in September?
Yeah, we'll prioritize it for one of the first meetings back after summer.
Sometimes we've even done it on a different night, so it's, I don't know, or even downstairs, because it's a more casual thing, I guess.
Okay,
So we can be face-to-face at a table or something.
okay.
That's just a thought.
I am open to any of those suggestions. I think that covers the list, so I would look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I move the motion to adjourn. And second?
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. Have a good evening.
Yeah, that's great.
Right on time, Mr. Chair, well done.